In the 6th century BCE, the Indian subcontinent underwent a shift in its economic structure. The catalyst was iron. Widespread use of iron agricultural tools meant forests were cleared and plows cut into the earth with a new efficiency. This agricultural surplus meant not everyone had to farm to survive. People gathered, traded, and built the region's first major urban centers. To handle this scale of commerce, society transitioned from barter and grain to a standardized monetary economy, relying on punch-marked silver coins like these. During this period of urbanization, a local leader named King Shuddodana welcomed a son, Siddhartha, but the boy's birth came with a heavy prophecy. Seers predicted the child would follow one of two paths. He would either become a world-conquering emperor or a world-saving ascetic. For Shuddodana, this was a high-stakes gamble. In an era defined by wealth and expanding cities, he needed a ruthless emperor to secure his legacy. He did not want a beggar for a son. To ensure Siddhartha chose the crown over the begging bowl, the king constructed a gilded cage. He built 3 distinct palaces, one for each season, designed to keep the prince focused on the material world. Every harsh reality of life was strictly filtered out. But Siddhartha possessed an inescapable, almost physical sense of empathy. This became obvious when his cousin, Devadatta, shot down a bird for sport. Instead of celebrating the hunt, Siddhartha rushed to the animal, pulled out the arrow, and nursed it back to health. When Devadatta demanded his prize, the young prince took the dispute to the royal court. He argued that life belongs to the savior, not the destroyer. The court ruled in his favor. While watching a royal plowing festival, Siddhartha felt sorrow not just for the exhausted oxen, but for the insects being crushed and exposed by the iron blades. The luxuries of his palaces meant nothing to him compared to the visible pain of the creatures around him. Shuddodana's trap failed. You cannot contain a prince in a palace of delights when he already feels the pain of the outside world as if it were his own. Eventually, Siddhartha left the palace walls. But exactly how that breaking point occurred depends on which historical lens you apply. The first is the traditional view, primarily found in Ashvaghosha's ancient text, the Buddha Charita. In this version, a 29-year-old Siddhartha ventures outside and encounters the 4 sights. Over successive chariot rides, he sees an old man, a sick man, a corpse, and finally, a peaceful ascetic. Because he had been sheltered his entire life, these sights triggered a shock. He realized that physical decay, illness, and death were the destiny of himself, his wife, his child, and everyone he loved. Through this mythic lens, the king's carefully curated illusion shatters the moment Siddhartha is forced into a confrontation with human mortality. There is also a second, pragmatic lens. In the 1950s, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar proposed a different political and historical framework. Ambedkar pointed to a geopolitical crisis. The agricultural boom had made water valuable, leading to a dispute over the Rohini River. Tensions between Siddhartha's clan, the Shakyas, and their rivals, the Kolias, were threatening to erupt into a war. When the Shakya military commander pushed for a preemptive strike, Siddhartha vehemently opposed him in the ruling council. He argued that a leader's duty is to negotiate peace, not to initiate slaughter. Outvoted and facing a draft into a war he found morally repulsive, Siddhartha accepted a sentence of voluntary permanent exile. By leaving, he diffused the political tension and prevented the war. Whether he was triggered by the shock of a corpse or the threat of a war, the driving force remained the same. Siddhartha possessed a compassion that refused to accept suffering as the status quo. Now a wandering exile, Siddhartha realized that leaving a palace wasn't enough. He needed to find a cure for the underlying cause of human suffering. He sought out masters like Alara Kalama, learning advanced meditation. But when the meditation ended, the suffering of the world remained. Frustrated, Siddhartha swung his life to the absolute opposite extreme of his palace days. He threw himself into severe asceticism for 6 years. He wore rags pulled from graveyards. He held his breath until he nearly blacked out. He restricted his diet to a single grain of rice a day, reducing his body to a fragile cage of skin and bones. Collapsing by a riverbank, near death, he realized that torturing his body wasn't bringing his mind any closer to liberation. It was merely adding a new layer of pain to the very suffering he was trying to cure. Siddhartha accepted a bowl of kheer, sweet milk and rice pudding, from a village woman named Sujata. By nourishing his body, he rejected both the luxury of his father's palace and the self-harm of ascetics. He found a balance, a way to engage with the world without being consumed by pleasures or destroyed by hardships. He called it the middle path. With his body restored, he sat beneath a Bodhi tree for one final meditation. It was there that he attained enlightenment, mapping out the architecture of human pain in the Four Noble Truths. The Buddhist system to dismantle suffering grew from a young boy's empathy for a wounded bird.